Introducing HourGlass. HourGlass is a lending protocol that produces financial derivatives which are built on top of Buttonwood's Mooncake app, which is built on top of the Ampleforth Protocol. So in order to understand HourGlass, it's important we first understand the layers beneath it. In order to understand Ample, we first need to take a look at Bitcoin. You have demand, which is the input into the system, and out comes a price. Now this is an open loop system since, in this case, the supply of Bitcoin does not ever change. As a result, if there's volatility in demand, there will also be volatility in price. In contrast, Ampleforth's price is relatively stable in response to demand. Ample does this by using a feedback loop through a ChainLink oracle to fluctuate its supply instead. For a more detailed explanation on how this works, click this link. It's important to note, however, that Ample's market cap is not stable either. This is because market cap is simply supply multiplied by the price. In fact, Ample's market cap is expected to follow this type of step pattern because of the feedback loop. There are phases of expansion, contraction, and accumulation. Now we can talk about Buttonwood's Mooncake app. Users deposit Ample into Mooncake, which will slice Ample into an A tranche, a B tranche, and a Z tranche. Ample's supply will fluctuate until the end of the bond, at which point tranches A and B get first dibs on the underlying, but they only get to take their fair share. This lets the Z tranche get to keep everything that's left over. For a more detailed explanation of how this works, click here. The important takeaway is that since A tranche gets to redeem first, it is protected against Ample's rebase effect as long as supply doesn't drop below 80%. In exchange for giving A and B that safety, the Z absorbs the rebase effect of its own Ample plus that from the A and B tranches. This makes Z a 2x long position with higher risk and higher reward. Going back to our market cap chart, essentially if you want to speculate that Ample will enter a contraction phase, then it makes sense to hold A tranches. If you want to speculate that Ample will continue expanding, then it makes sense to hold as many Z tranches as possible. But what if you want to speculate that we're here, about to enter an accumulation phase? Or here, where we're about to enter an expansion cycle? This is where HourGlass comes in. HourGlass lets users deposit their AZ tranches into a contract with two compartments that can be visualized as such. In return, HourGlass provides A' and Z' tokens. These represent the rights to the tranches in their respective compartments. As time passes from the start of the bond, Z tranches will fall from the top compartment into the bottom compartment. In this example, 100% of the Z tranche is transferred, but HourGlass is customizable so that the bond can be initialized with any percentage. At a high level, this allows A' holders to slowly accumulate Z tranche tokens on top of an existing A tranche position. So it makes sense for a speculator to buy A' if they're expecting an expansion towards the end of the bond period, since that's when they'll have accumulated the most number of Z tokens. In contrast, Z' holders are betting that Ample supply will increase so fast that it will compensate for the small amount of Z tranche tokens being paid each day. This makes Z' attractive for speculators that think Ample will enter an expansion phase very soon. Coming back to Mooncake, the main incentive for Ample depositors to use Mooncake is that it allows them to take their A-B tranches and swap them for USDT and stablecoins, helping them borrow against their position. With HourGlass, since A' only has additional upside compared to an A tranche, Ample depositors can borrow a larger amount. Let's take a look at the architecture of Mooncake. When a user deposits Ample into the HourGlass glue contract, it goes downstream through Mooncake's contracts that return A, B, and Z tranches. The B tranches get swapped for USDT in a Uniswap liquidity pool, which then gets returned with the AZ tranches to the glue contract. HourGlass then pushes the AZ tranches through a similar route in its own contracts to get A' and Z'. We've created a Uniswap pool for the A' which allows HourGlass to swap it for USDT. The Ample depositor finally receives the total amount of USDT and Z' in the end. Users that don't have Ample can also exchange A' and Z' with A and Z tranches directly through the deposit and redeem functions on the HourGlass bond controller. At the end of the bond, HourGlass uses a simple ChainLink keeper that calls mature to make a state change indicating to the bond controller that maturity has been reached. For a video demo of the app, please check the playlist here. To visit the app, please check the link in the description.
Thanks for watching.